Finally, in my post-Senior Bowl rankings, we get to the wide receiver position, and we're going to have a lot of different hot takes and feels when it comes to the receiver position. I look forward to hearing about them in the comment section below. Remember, you're going to see my top 10 in this video, but you can see my top 20 on Twitter. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. And let's go ahead and get into this sucker with number 10, Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. 5'11", 185, got him as a top 75 prospect. And we are about... Listen, we're going to have some hot takes when it comes to some of these prospects, and I'll talk about some of them at the end of the video as well, that I'm sure y'all will be like, oh, how could they not make this list? And I'll try to discuss them briefly, but Jaden Reed had an absolutely stellar Senior Bowl. He really did. He showed that he can accelerate off the line, and he has some very good bursts, and really getting off the line was probably my biggest concern when it came to Jaden Reed. I wonder, I was like, how can he handle press? And this dude just has some of the quickest feet. He really does, and he's able to get off the line without corners even being able to get a decent hand on him. He had multiple cases where like he would beat defenders early on, and even like despite like one against Ja'Cory Bennett, despite Bennett basically holding him all the way down the field, he was able to haul in a end zone catch, and it was like in the back of the end zone. It was tight space. Like, it was pretty darn impressive. He had a stellar week, and I love the journey of Jaden Reed because he was initially at Western Michigan, and his freshman season he ended up being a second team all MAC, and then decided to transfer to Michigan State, where he had to sit out because of the transfer rules at the time for the 2019 season, and basically became a starter almost instantly, really. And he had a really good 2021. So did that Michigan State team. And then the flaws in the quarterback, just came to fold in 2022 without Kenneth Walker there. They just weren't able to lean on the run game as much, and I think Reed dealt with injuries in early on in 2022. Also, no Jalen Naylor there anymore, so he didn't have the most ideal 2022. But the Senior Bowl kind of reminded us, like, man, this guy's flat out. He's a competitor. He's a smooth route runner. Shows good body control when having to adjust to the ball. He's able to switch gears throughout the route, and just like corners, if they want to contain him, they have to be able to put hands on him because he's just slippery. He's actually slippery after the catch as well. He brings in return skills. Like, I believe he received in 2020 Big Ten honors as a return man. So my biggest concern kind of being that, okay, is he going to struggle on press? Let's see how he is in these one-on-ones when corners get up and in his grill. And he was stellar in that regard, man. He really was. Another thing to note is the drop rate with him. Back in 2021, it was 9.2. This season, 8.3. So not the most consistent hands, but still a guy very capable of being that deep threat, a guy that can also make plays after the catch. He's here at number 10. And then at number 9, we have Parker Washington out of Penn State, weighing 5'10", 212 pounds. He's basically a receiver a running back at the receiver position. Top 75 grade on him. He's ideally probably a slot guy at the NFL level. He's a very subtle athlete. He shows good shiftiness, good elusiveness. Like I said, man, this dude's a ball carrier the minute he gets the ball in his hands. He's strong. He's got reliable hands. Only 6.1 drop rate this past season. He does a good job of switching gears throughout the route. He adjusts to the ball very well when it's in air. Shows great body control. He's physical as a run blocker. High points the football exceptionally well. And like kind of the thing with me is like, okay, doesn't have the ideal height, probably doesn't have the ideal length. Played over 94% of the time out of the slot over the past 3 seasons. Like, so it's going to be, he's not going to be probably looked at as an outside receiver, but he's a dude that could really, that rattles off broken tackle after broken tackle after broken tackle. Now, I did say he's a subtle athlete. I think he's more so an okay athlete. Like, I think he's going to test out marginally. Like, okay, he's solid, but the long field speed, meh. Like, stop-start ability, meh. Agility, explosiveness. It's all going to be, I think, pretty par for the course. So there is that. Also, when featured in Penn State's offense, he was averaging 2 yards per route. So definitely a guy that they used underneath. So he might need some development at the intermediate to long levels of the field. But I'm a big, you heard it here first, big fan of Parker Washington. Now on to number 8. I have Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, coming in at 6 foot, 185, had a magical year for Tennessee where he had 67 receptions for over 1,200 yards, 15 tutties. Love to see it. And I mean, first and foremost, this guy's got he's a blazer. He's got exceptional speed. He's going to be like a 4.3, maybe even sub 4.3 guy. Just explodes off the line of scrimmage and out of his breaks. He's got some nice like double moves. He tracks the ball well in air, shows good body control. He put on significant weight to be able to play a bit stronger, but there is that caveat of, okay, how do you handle physicality during the route? And not well, not great. You know, he could easily be knocked off routes, which just knocks off the timing on routes. He will probably be viewed as strictly a vertical guy, at least early on in his career. Because after the catch, you know, he has the skills to be a monster after the catch. You just don't see any creativity. He's more of a linear player than he is laterally. But again, the physicality, a guy that's not going to be a very good run blocker. And the hands were much better this season because, like, going back to 2021, 12% drop rate. This year it was 6%. So big upgrade in that regard. Is this guy that's going to be able to win at the contested catch point? I think he does solid. He was 60% of the contested catch point. So that's good. But this first round hype for him, I think is no. I mean, I'd rather take a chance on the speedster on day 2. Believe me, he's a better football player than a guy like Anthony Schwartz, who's basically a track guy playing football. He's more of a football player, but he does need to add a bit more physicality, a bit more, get a bit more developed as a route runner. And I kind of think he's going to be a vertical guy from the slot, at least early on in his career. At least that's how I'm profiling him right now. Did have a special year. Don't want to take that away from him, so I'm not. The guy was exceptionally good, but I think he's going to need a little bit more development, a little bit more polish at the NFL level. And then at number 7, I have Michael Wilson out of Stanford, a guy that really wasn't on my radar. Well, he was. I did a little brief eval of him going into the Senior Bowl because I like to at least have a put together eval for the Senior Bowl guys, so that way I could, you know, talk about sleepers and such with y'all. But he totally surprised me and really shocked everybody. He really did. Like, he came in and it was like, this guy looks ready for the NFL. Like, he's a great route runner. He's got prototypical size at 6'1", 212. And he just looks ready. He could work inside. He could work outside. He's got good strength. He's a good blocker. He shows great getting off the line. I mean, we saw that consistently in one-on-ones. And the dude, for all intents and purposes, was one of, if not the best receiver there when it comes to projected to the NFL level. like he was very impressive at the Senior Bowl. And like he's got the body that projects well to be a big slot or a X wide receiver, prototypical X wide receiver. He's got great body control, very fluid route runner, can create separations with double moves. And the thing with him, well, let's start with the little nitpicks, and I'll talk about the overall, probably the big thing that kind of weighs down his draft stock. Excuse me. He is a bit inconsistent as a catcher. If you go back, career drop rate of 8.8%. This past season was up to almost 13%. Whenever you're over or around that 10%, it's kind of like, ooh, can I get more consistent hands? I don't think he's a bigger receiver, so he's not like the most sudden guy, not the most explosive guy. He could be a bit stiff, changing direction. But again, with these bigger receivers, you kind of expect that. However, this is the Achilles heel here, is this dude has been injured the last 3 seasons. Like, just the last 2 years, he's missed 13 games. 6 in 2022, 7 in 2021. Because I know with Tanner McKee, it'd be like, how could Tanner McKee not produce well with a great wide receiver like this? Well, because he missed 13 games the past 2 seasons. I mean, even going back to 2020, that was a shortened year. And after enjoying the breakout year in 2019, and I don't really see any injuries prior to that. Like, I didn't see any in his high school days. He really didn't see a lot of action in his freshman year in 2018. It was really, he emerged in 2019. The shortened year in 2020 gave him some issues. And then just being injured the last 2 seasons, and on top of that, we don't really know what the injuries was because Stanford, they disclose those injuries. So it'll be kind of important to see how his medicals check out, see what specifically was harping him the last 2 seasons, and is that something to worry about going forward? Because if it's not, well, he's a top 50 prospect. Like, simple as that. Because there's not a lot of guys here on early day 2 that have that ideal size you want. I know, even Gojo's complaining about it. But Michael Wilson put his name on the map. He's on everyone's radar now. Quality. He had a really good game against Christian Gonzalez this past season. Wanted to point that out. But let's go ahead, talk about number 6. We got Tank Dell out of Houston. 6'8", 163, and I'm sure y'all look at that and y'all like, oh, that sucks. Here, let me let Gojo out real quick. Yeah, Gojo, we're gonna be talking about the mini tank, the Hot Wheels tank in Nathaniel Dell. All right. So he had a stellar season. He actually had multiple. This is like back-to-back stellar years, because last year he went for 91 receptions, over 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. This year, 108 receptions, almost 1,400 yards, and 17 touchdowns. Nathaniel Dell is just freaking great. Straight up. 19 forced missed tackles this past year, among the most in this class. Let's go over his journey real quick. As he's from the 2018 class, he was a former 3-star recruit, decided to go to Alabama A&M, where he redshirted his first year. After an injury, saw minimal play in 2018, so he transferred to Independence Community College, who was featured in Last Chance U, but this was they did that a year before Tank Dell arrived, and I'm sure he decided to go there because of a lot of the coverage that they got. But he had a stellar season there where he had 52 receptions, 766 yards, 8 tutties. Then he decided to go to Houston, where he carved out a role early on and then had that breakout season. He's been a good return man for them as well. But this dude, on top of blazing speed, he's just quick. He's got elite stop-start ability. He's literally like a video game player after the catch. Something about the way he moves reminds me of like a Dante Hall, if you remember him back in the day for the Chiefs. He's fluid as a route runner, quick feet, exceptionally quick feet. And like, I know a lot of people are gonna look at this and be like, okay, Tutu Atwell, maybe like Rondale Moore, these like undersized guys, though Rondale Moore at least had some heft to him, more so Tutu Atwell. But it's like, Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why guys like Rondale Robinson. There's a reason why the NFL like took some of these guys early day 2, because they're looking for that Deshaun Jackson, that next guy that could be this elite vertical target, and bring that in the return game as well, and a guy that's just a disgusting route runner that could just get open with that type of those type of quicks. And again, you're kind of reaching out for the exception here, but man, I think Tank Dell is the closest we've seen. Like, I wasn't really high on guys in the past. Like, I wasn't high on Wandale. I wasn't high on Tutu. I wasn't high on D. Eskridge. I'm high on Tank Dell, dude. I really, really am, man. Because, like, this dude adjusts well to throws. He makes catches away from his body. He has a load of experience, a load of proven, like, hey, I'm a monster and I deserve to be treated as such. And obviously the thing is, it's like, yeah, he lacks ideal size. He really, really, really does. It's going to be hard to get behind his size. Physicality will always be a concern. He flirted or close to that drop rate. He was at 8.5%, so close to that 10%. So you're like, okay, well, the hands are small. Like, are the hands small? Yeah, the hands, they're sub 9 inches. So that's pretty small for a receiver. So there will be concerns with him being a consistent catcher at the next level. But listen, I'm willing to bet on this guy being that exception, being a guy that could be like a Deshaun Jackson in the NFL. Like, and this is coming from a guy that has not been high on those guys in the past. So understand, this isn't like, oh, he's too small, you can't blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, I tend to agree more times than not with that take in the past, but I think Nathaniel Dell could definitely be the exception to that. He has been freaking wonderful his career there at Houston. All right, on to number 5. I got Josh Downs out of North Carolina. Another smaller receiver at 5'10", 175, and absolutely love this cat. I wasn't exactly super high coming into the year, but man, this dude's just such a twitched up mover, such a sudden athlete. Like, another guy with these quick feet that he could lose guys there on a few like little double moves. Like, honestly, he does a little zig out or a whip route, man. There are times where he's getting like 3 yards of separation, just leaving the defender there at the top of his route. And I can attest this as a Miami fan. He tore us up. It sucked. But man, I freaking this cat's really good after the catch, but he showed a bit more route running ability this season. Wasn't just really used vertically and in screens like he was in 2021. He doesn't shy away from contact. He's been very good at the catch point, 72.2% this past season. And again, the thing here is not ideal size. A guy that it was good to see him move away from primarily operating out of the slot, but still he primarily operated in the slot, where he was in the slot 82% of the time this season. He did struggle with drops in 2021 with 10, but this season a 3.1% drop rate, so the hands were a lot more sure. He's more likely when it comes to what he does after the catch. He wants to make you miss. He's not going to always take contact head on. That's not always going to be his thing, but absolutely love him. If anything, it's like the NFL will be a little bit lower on him because of what his role in the NFL is, and that's a slot. But I think he has the footwork to really do it outside. But again, that size, limited catch radius, there's going to be questions. I think how he tests out is going to be really important to see if is he going to hang with guys like that are of a similar size, like a Zay Flowers, Nathaniel Dell, though Nathaniel Dell's very, very undersized compared to even a with downs, but is he going to be able to hang with guys like that, or are those guys just going to end up being better athletes? Which, in all honesty, like I'm willing to put Dell ahead of Downs at this point. You know, if Tank really does end up testing out that much better than Downs. So that is something to keep your eye on when it comes to the NFL draft, or the NFL Combine. So just something to keep an eye on. Next on the list here at number 4, I got Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State. He was limited to only 3 games this year because of the hamstring. And that is one of a few questions I have when it comes to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Like, the questions are, it's going to be, okay, is it a soft tissue thing? Because that could hurt his stock. We've seen receivers at the NFL level, like Keenan Allen, kind of not be able to stay consistently on the field because of hamstring issues. So that's going to need to be checked on. But also, can he succeed on the outside? This dude's 6'1", 200. You look at that size, like, okay, definitely feels like he can, but he's going to have to test out well. He really is. Like, if he could test out as more of a high-end athlete than people anticipate, better speed, better explosiveness than people anticipate, then you could argue him to be being wide receiver 1 in this class. Because it'll quell a lot of the concerns that, oh, he could probably make it then on the outside if he's a bit more of a high-end athlete than you think. There's going to be worries because this guy operated over the course of his career over 90% of the time in the slot, and he sees a lot of free releases. Is he going to be able to guy that can actually win on press, win in those one-on-ones, and not so much just kind of like find the soft spot in zones? Because like this dude, he is a smooth athlete, and he's very shifty after the catch. We have to base a lot of this on the 2021 tape because he only played 3 games this past season. But like, he was unstoppable. He really was. He had 19 forced missed tackles in 2021. He was almost like a running back with the ball in his hands. Tracks the ball well in the air, over his shoulder. He shows good focus, and he has strong hands. He only had a 5% drop rate in 2021. And he actually uses his hands pretty well during the route and positions his body well to make a play after the catch. And he's one of the best blocking receivers in this class as well. So that's gonna be like that's gonna be the question when it comes to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Is he gonna be a guy that can produce well outside in the slot? So we'll see. Combine's going to answer a lot of those questions. We're going to probably see him move up or down, dependent on that. On to number 3, it's Zay Flowers out of Boston College, coming in at 5. I have 5'9". I put 5'8" on here, but I'm telling y'all 5'9". This is what he measured out at the Shrine. 5'9", 182, and he only practiced during the Shrine Bowl. He didn't play in the game, and that's all he needed. He was slick. He was smooth as a route runner. He looked like the best wide receiver out there. The guy was good. He is just so fast. He's so good at fluctuating his speed throughout the route. He really, really, really is. And like the dude is just good luck touching him. Going back, if you go to his 2021 tape where he was almost exclusively, when he was used in the slot as like this end around sweep guy, also heavy on screens. He was so hard to get a hand on when he played on the outside. He was primarily a vertical receiver, and just again a guy that is just, he can put the moves on you. He's got exceptionally quick feet. He's just really good in that regard. But this year was so defining for me because I was like, okay, looks like he's a good slot guy. Like, because I didn't like the size. I didn't like the lack of physicality he could probably take at the NFL level, because he is a dude that, I mean, to be fair, like, smaller catch radius. If a receiver puts his hands on him, like, close to dead in the water. He's probably not going to handle physicality at the NFL level that well. And then this year, playing more on the outside, I think over 65% of his snaps came on the outside. He ran a much more deeper variety of routes, a bigger route tree, and the dude was phenomenal, man. Like, he was just hard to keep up with. Like, his release off the line, if having to face press, like, his feet are so quick. Good luck touching him. Good luck putting a hand on him. He knows how to avoid contact. And, like, his speed is just top end. It's high end. It's like, it's going to be something you have to deal with at the NFL level. It's going to be tough, man. So, like, I was just like, oh, man, I think this dude could definitely succeed in that regard. However, man, you really are going to be concerned with drops when it comes to Zay Flowers. This past year, 10.3% drop rate. Back in 2021, he only had 4 drops, but that was on a smaller sample size. And to be fair, like, if you look at the balls he had that he was getting thrown, it was screen or it was deep routes where he already had a significant amount of separation. So you are going to worry about the ball skills, especially with the smaller frame. But man, 15 forced missed tackles last year. I was adamantly against Zay Flowers going into the season, and once I was able to get tape on him, I was just like, nah, you know what? I'm sold. I got a first round grade on him. Next on the list is Jordan Addison, number 2 here out of USC, 6 foot 175. And man, he made the move from Pittsburgh after winning the Blinknikov Award. And the production wasn't as good as it was in 2021. You go in 2021, he had close to 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, and he basically halved all those numbers. But he was also a little beat up. He had the ankle injury, I believe, this past season. But this dude is so explosive. You still see the game-breaking speed. He can put corners in a blender with his cuts, his double moves. Despite being thin, he can attack the ball well in air. 3.3% drop rate, so sure hands. Wasn't that great at the catch point this season, which is fine. It kind of is what it is, but I love the effort he puts when having to go up for those contested catch balls. He's got tightrope balance, man, like legit. He could really thread the needle on the sideline. Stop-start ability, phenomenal. Had 21 forced missed tackles back in 2021. Only 6 this year, but again, you saw much less targets, again, because he was injured and whatnot, but still very good. I love his burst up field. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Addison. If we're going to talk about, like, this is a dude that can attack the level at all 3, like attack the field at all 3 levels. He's as good as he can separate both vertically and horizontally. So this is a guy you can open up the playbook to. He played, I think, about 80% on the outside this season, so he kind of quelled some of the concerns, like, oh, he might just be a slot guy. I don't really think that's the case, but he does lack physicality. That's going to be the thing. If guys can put hands on him during the route, it does kind of knocks off the timing routes. It knocks him off his routes. Like, physicality just isn't his thing, and there are times when he's like pressed to the sideline. He's just pressed to the sideline too easily on like vertical sets, and it just doesn't leave a lot of room for quarterbacks to throw the football there. The hands were much better. I'm not too concerned about those after him showing that this season. But I will say that a lot of his production, at least at USC, it was a little schemed up. But I'm not going to really worry about that too much, because at Pittsburgh he was used a bit more expansively. So I don't know if that's a word. I may have made it up, but you know what I'm saying. But overall, I'm really a big fan of Jordan Addison. Let's go ahead, get into my number 1 Quentin Johnston out of TCU, 6'4", 215. I absolutely love Johnson. I really do. He is a competitor. Like, you go back to 2021 and you go to the Oklahoma game and where he had 3 tutties. He was going up, he was attacking the ball in air, and he was strong arming it, man. Like, I loved that. You love to see it from a guy his size and with his length. Like, he has to show that. He has to show those hands. It's just this year he just didn't tap into that as much. He really didn't, man. Like, it was kind of weird. Like, I go back to the Kansas game where I think it was right before half. Like, I think it was just a Hail Mary ball where it got thrown up to him, and instead of, like, he got by the corner, and you got to know the safety's coming. So instead of attacking the ball when it's in air, the safety kind of comes in and gets between them, and I'm like, well, that's weird. That's something, like, I knew he did. Like, I knew he did last year. Like, it was kind of weird, man. And it was like, I feel like he tapped more into his finesse game this season. It's like, I know you got that physicality. I know you got that dog in you. I saw that in 2021. And it just looked like he was more willing this season to kind of use his speed to do the talking, because this guy's got speed, man. He's got speed, he's got explosiveness, he's got size. He could turn it upfield real quick and create yards after the catch. He had 18 forced missed tackles this season, and man, the dude, he absorbs contact with that build. Like, he can attack all levels of the field. He's not like he's not just a big vertical option on the outside. He could attack all 3 levels of the field. Drops were a bit up this season, which I didn't like, 11%. So wasn't a fan of that. Trying to see if I don't have exactly what it was last season. So it's like, I know he's got strong hands. He's got more sure hands than that. So I'm not too worried. Not the most sudden athlete. Don't expect you to be at 215. Kind of is what it is. He is a bit high cut at the line of scrimmage, so corners will be able to get under his pads. But I'm not worried about him getting muscled out. I'm really not. So that kind of is what it is. And to be honest, like, most of his drops this past season were, I would say, drops in traffic. Yeah, I think so. Like thinking back, like, a lot of them were you could tell were more so like a focus drop. Like, okay, what is my play? What am I doing after the catch? So again, I'm not worried about that. Like, I love freaking Quentin Johnston. He's one of my favorite prospects in this class. He was kind of a my guy coming in. Had a slow start to the year, and then finally that Kansas game, he got rolling. He came up big in that Michigan game, and then the Georgia game, like, he was a non-factor because the pressure just was so intense on Max Duggan that he just really couldn't get him the football. The two occasions I could point to where he was throwing the ball. One should have been a defensive holding. Like, the corner was draped all over him on a short little slant. And then the other was an overthrown that got intercepted that, like, he couldn't even make a play on. So, yeah, don't tell me it's like, oh, you didn't really produce against Georgia. You really didn't get the opportunity to. So, yeah. But I absolutely love him. So that's it for the video. But let's talk about some of these guys that I know I'm going to hear about in the comment section. And we're going to start with Kayshon Boutte. He did not make the list. He was actually... You're going to see if you go to Twitter, he was my number 11. And a big reason why was because the baggage. There's just so much baggage there. Like, people are going to wonder, is his head in the game? Is there a want to play football there, as he almost left LSU after the first game because of just not being given the football? But, I mean, he returned, which was great. But there's obviously, you got the little sex party scandal or whatever the heck that is. And there's going to be concerns with his testing. Like, okay, can he test out explosiveness? Because he didn't look nearly as explosive this season. And if you remember, he had 2 ankle procedures over the offseason. So there is going to be that concern there. Rashee Rice, he had a bad Senior Bowl. He struggled to separate. And those guys in the NFL that just struggle to separate just typically don't do well. So, like, he dropped on my list. Cedric Tillman, I feel like is more him and A.T. Perry. They're both these bigger receivers that are solid at the contested catch, but just not quite my cup of tea when it comes to receivers. I have like 4th round grades on those guys, so it's not like I'd be willing to take them at the back end of the 3rd round. Like, I still think they're very good prospects, but yeah, they just missed out. Like, I'm like straight up, like when it comes to like day 2 and early day 3, there is a lot of good receivers to be had. So like a lot of these guys were hard to rank. Like, I think going up to like my wide receiver, like 26, even 27 and 28, like there's a lot of guys I'd be willing to take here. Like, in the 5th round. Like, I know at the top, like, people complain about this receiving class. Oh, they don't really have any like high-end prospects, which I agree. Like, you know, there's no Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, or stinking Devontae Smith. There's no Drake London, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson in this draft. But like, you get to like day 2 and early day 3, and there's a ton of guys. So don't sleep on this wide receiver class. Don't. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. As always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.